morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm going to give this gentleman from South Africa the opportunity for him to speak. While he was speaking about South Africa, he might just as well have been speaking about Zimbabwe. Indeed, what he has to say is even more applicable to Zimbabwe than it could possibly be to South Africa. He's speaking about corruption.
It is no longer a question of isolated incidents or a few bad apples. Corruption has embedded itself into the very DNA of our systems. Just like the colonizers, the corrupt have colonized our institutions, our governance structures, and our hopes. They wear masks of leadership while knowing very well that they are draining the very soul of our nation. There was a time in South Africa where we were united against the system of oppression, the system of apartheid. We fought for freedom, we fought for dignity and for self-determination. But unfortunately, today the struggle has shifted. Our battle is no longer against the external oppressors, but against those who rise from amongst us only to betray the cause that we fought for. The corrupt are not merely stealing money these days. They are stealing futures, they are stealing dreams, lives, they are stealing hopes. They are stealing our sense of justice, our faith in democracy, and our children's inheritance. And the sad part about this whole thing is that even the institutions that are entrusted with upholding justice are corrupted. Courts, commissions, law enforcement, and many others have become the tools to protect the powerful and no longer protecting the people that they should be serving. We need to raise a new generation of ethical leaders, leaders who are not driven by money or material gain or fame, but those who are driven by justice, truth, and principle. Leaders like Oliver Tambo, Chris Hani, and many others who have walked with integrity, even when it cost them everything they had. We need people who can stand up for justice, people who can protect the cause, people who can make sure that the lives of the people becomes better. Unfortunately, the most painful truth about this whole thing is that many lives will be lost before real justice is done. Because the system that protects the corrupt is built to punish those who challenge the corrupt. Whistleblowers are silenced, activists are hunted, those who are brave enough to speak up are broken. However, we must remember that history has shown us, from the anti-colonial struggles to the fall of dictators, that no road survives forever.
Yes, got a point. I think one of the problems we have had in Zimbabwe is that from the word go, soon after our independence, Zimbabwe took the wrong turn. Countries like South Africa have had bad leaders. I'll be the first one to admit it. And they've led the country astray. But in 1994, Mandela gave that country healthy and working democratic institutions. And they have managed to weather the forces, the corrupting influence. And most of South Africa's institutions are still standing firm. Zimbabwe did not have any such luck. Here is Dr. Simba Makoni explaining how corruption started soon after independence.
I recall very clearly that when we came into office in 1980, we inherited Ian Smith's systems. And Ian Smith's ministers drove Peugeot 504s. They drove themselves from home to work in their Land Rovers and all in kinds. Most of them were farmers. They parked their Land Rover and then they used the government vehicle when they were at work with a chauffeur. When they finished at night, they packed them and they took theirs to go home. Within the month of our coming into office, Prime Minister Mugabe then directed that every minister be issued with an E-class Mercedes-Benz. And the Peugeot 504s were retired to permanent secretaries, and the deputy ministers who then took over. We can also look at many other things, small they may appear at the time. Let me hazard that even at that point, Enos Nkala was our Minister of Finance. I don't think we knew what budget we inherited from Ian Smith when the decision was taken to buy those E-class fleets for the ministers. So the material affection for material things has always been with us. And the differentiation also, even going back into the camps, Zema Shefu, Neze, my comrades, Makada, were not the same. So much so that even today, when the so-called Minister for Presidential Affairs or Provincial Governor, as they were, goes to Bubi or Binga, they will be served separately and differently from the other people. The avarice grew as we began to exploit the opportunities of office.
Of course, Dr. Makoni has got a point. What the point I would like to emphasize there is that Mugabe was corrupting his fellow Zanu PF leaders so that they became yes men. He pampered them. And when you are given all those extra things, trappings of high office, you know you expect to repay it by your blind loyalty, allegiance to the leader. Mugabe's cabinet has earned the reputation of being one of the most complying in human history. Margaret Longo, at one time, in sheer anger and frustration at how complying her fellow MPs and ministers and so forth were always complying to whatever Mugabe said, she referred to them as Wakadzwa Mugabe at one point. Mugabe's concubines. She was right. Mugabe's cabinet members, MPs, right through every structure at every level, were always trying to please him to the point where they stopped thinking for themselves. Many people have said the army dictates to the powers in Zanu PF. The truth of the matter is, Mugabe was appointing loyalists in the civil service, parastatals, the army, the police, you name it. And they all started to play to his tunes. They tried to pretend that they're independent when in reality, Mugabe had bought them. They had all become Zanu PF departments in all but name, all trying to please Robert Gabriel Mugabe first and foremost. Some people have often referred to the police and the army, and particularly the speech by Junavashe, as proof of how the army dictated to Zanu PF leadership.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket, whose occupant is expected to observe the objectives of the liberation struggle. We will therefore not accept, let alone support or salute anyone with a different agenda that threatens the very existence of our sovereignty, our country, and our people.
If the truth be told, Junavashe and his fellow generals in the army, the police, the CIO, you name it, they were all wearing straitjackets with Mugabe's image on them. Following the 2017 military coup, people thought, there we are, the army, we told you the army was most powerful. It is the one that dictates what happens in the country. How long did it take for Mnangagwa to erode away all the military power that Chiwenga thought he was commanding? Chiwenga may be VIP now. VP, sorry. But in truth, he has had the carpet swept from underneath him. All his army colleagues have all gone. The army now listens to Mnangagwa. But the most erosive and corrosive erosion of our political institutions is how Zanu PF has corrupted the opposition for its own selfish purposes. The opposition, the MDC, the people have reached all to elect the opposition for one main reason, that they would implement the democratic reforms to end the Zanu PF de facto one-party state. MDC was launched in 1999. Now, 25 years down the line, Zanu PF still blatantly rigs the elections. And they've been able to get away with it for no other reason than that the opposition have been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that they are flawed. And worst of all, knowing that by participating, they are giving Zanu PF legitimacy. But they continue to do so out of greed. The biggest failing in Zimbabwe's political system is that the people, the electorate themselves, have failed to realize that moment. Didn't happen overnight, took time, but it was a definite shift from the opposition truly serving the people of Zimbabwe, ordinary people of Zimbabwe, committed to implementing the democratic reforms to end the Zanu PF dictatorship, to become Zanu PF enablers. By failing to implement even one token reform, and then by participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that they are flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they're giving Zanu PF legitimacy, the opposition have completely transformed themselves into Zanu PF Team B in all but name. And this is why it is so difficult to end the Zanu PF dictatorship in Zimbabwe. Zanu PF has corrupted all the key institutions, parliament, judiciary, ZEC, police, army. They are all departments of Zanu PF in all but name. And the cherry on top, they've corrupted the opposition to become Zanu PF Team B in all but name. Zimbabwe will not change as long as the present political system remains. And the present political system has been so corrupted, it is hard to see how there can be any meaningful change. If there's going to be change, it has got to come from the ordinary people. And it has got to recognize the political reality that the present opposition is serving Zanu PF's interests, although they still want to maintain that they are serving the ordinary people's interests. I think a realization of that basic political reality is a must, is the first step if we are ever going to transform Zimbabwe from the present failed political system to a healthy and functioning democracy. Food for thought. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.